How's it going out there, folks? Welcome back here to a Tuesday night. It is the Earthmaster out here, about 8:38 p.m. That's California time, February 11th, 2025. I'm repeating myself here. Goodness. Latest earthquake shows a 4.3 earthquake across Northern California. Notice a decent amount of earthquake movement here across Northern California. That stretching off here off the coast and also inland here. Seen some activity stirring up across the northern end of the Sacramento Valley and over here across the northern end of the Sierra Nevada mountains. Kind of see a little pattern here of elevated seismicity taking place here across Northern California. That very reminiscent of the the activity prior to the 7-pointer that popped out here in early December. So I'm thinking we may see something here soon, a little bit larger than what we're seeing right now. 4.3 earthquake, far as, looks like it's still underneath automatic status. The origins here, in terms of magnitudes, roughly about 4.3 to 4.2. The lower error rate station here shows, they're all over the place. They got almost a 5-pointer, some down in the 3 range. But I guess we'll have to see. Look at that, 2.6. I highly doubt it's a 2.6 because this is showing up quite nicely there on the Mendocino, California station. That, of course, sits inland here, picking up that signature of the 4.3 earthquake right now. Earlier this morning, just after midnight last night here, we had a 4-pointer, 4.1. So a little bit larger earthquake activity, but in between these two events here, this is what I'm talking about. A little bit of elevated movement here across Northern California. A key indicator here of a lot of strain. And in fact, the earthquake watch issued here covers California due to the elevated movement up north. A lot of activity stirred up down south here on the San Andreas Fault. That little swarm there. And, of course, elevated movement north of the Garlock Fault shear zone. I'll leave that earthquake watch up for a couple days. I normally issue that in times of elevated seismic activity, and the last couple days here, including tonight, is very obvious that we got a pattern out here of some pressurization going on here across the west coast, so be prepared. Let me see here, still underneath automatic status. Looks like it did send out a shake alert, early alert shake system, mainly inland here across Eureka area. Probably like looks like maybe a 10-second warning of this 4.6. I don't think it's going to be, all that strong of a shake. Not a big earthquake. It is offshore, but it looks like a few folks did report feeling that earthquake around Eureka, McKinleyville area, and Humboldt. And, of course, that earthquake showing up quite nicely there on the Mendocino, California seismograph station. So we'll wait and see what these guys do with an update. But, it's a pretty decent little swarm going on here across Northern California. I want to check out tremor map here. Let's see what we got for Cascadia tremor. By the way, thanks, Timothy, for letting me know about that. I appreciate it. Always dependable there on letting me know when things are awkward. I was just doing this update here, and it was not showing the display capture. It was showing the live stream, which looks something like this. So I'm sitting here yakking in the background, trying to show you guys or explain to you guys what I'm seeing, and you guys are seeing that. So anyway, we got it fixed. Tremor map here. Look at this. That could be why we're seeing elevated earthquake activity out here. We got some tremor down there. Southern end, all of it's at the southern end of the Cascadia subduction zone. 146 epicenters of tremor to be exact. Now, what's going on here is the plate movement. We're looking at pressurization here. The Gorda plate, in this respect, this little smaller plate, or the Juan de Fuca plate as a whole. This southern portion here is showing some tremor activity. So when that happens, it's basically this plate here is trying to be shoved down underneath this area of the North American plate, and it's putting the strain out here. You can see the strain all across Northern California here. So there's some high pressurization going on across the southern end of the Cascadia subduction zone. I keep talking about that in respect to a potential partial rip here of the Cascadia. That could be up around an 8.4, maybe even a 8.5, depending on how far north it ruptures. But we do get these little periods of partial ruptures of the Cascadia subduction zone in between full rips, full unzips, so to speak. And of course, a full rupture there of the Cascadia would result in a 9.0 or greater earthquake. But the southern end here has a tendency to build up a lot more strain quicker compared to the entire area. There's the Gorda Ridges here. This is a seafloor separation, slowly, obviously, a divergent boundary zone that puts the strain down here, right across this area. And so we got elevated tremor, elevated strain showing there on the map. Just be on guard. 4.5. Looks like they've upgraded this here. A little bit larger. Can you believe it? Not very often, but hey, that's a pretty decent signature right there on the Mendocino station. So 4.5 is the determined magnitude here. Double check, refresh everything. 4.5. There it is. It has been reviewed by an official. Very shallow earthquake, very surface rupture type quake right there. That's interesting. So just be on guard. There's a lot happening out here. It's showing inland, and I issued this earthquake watch here before this even 4.5 came in, just due to all the elevated signs showing up here across the state of California. So be on guard. We got that swarm down there on the San Andreas Fault. Nothing new since about 11 o'clock this morning, but that was an interesting little sequence of events. 23 earthquakes, including a couple threes in there, 3.4, 3.0, 3.6. I haven't seen that on the southern branch of the San Andreas Fault. So, and then following that, there's a couple earthquakes further down the line here of the San Andreas Fault, just off the plate boundary. So we got much potential out here for big earthquake activity, and the signs are starting to show out here. Far as the Greece area, Santorini region, that is still continuing. It has not died off. Don't let anyone fool you into thinking that this is going away. This has been a consistent event over the past week or so. Well, probably what's it been going on now? Probably about the last, there's 89 earthquakes there, 157. So I think it's about the last 2 weeks here. So 157 earthquakes that the USGS is showing, which is that's a big number to see on the USGS map internationally. And there's really been no main quake. Okay, this is not fracture boundary earthquake activity. This is volcanic activity happening underneath this region. It's showing. We got migration going on down here within this swarm. But the pattern out here, let me show you guys. Refresh this. The interesting pattern that's been taking place. Where's the most recent earthquake? Right here, it looks like, outside the zone. So the main area of magma intrusion, swelling, so to speak, is happening within this swarm. As it continues to build and build without popping, we see these elevated fracture quakes, pressurization quakes around the main area in a circular fashion. That's why I firmly believe this is magmatic in nature, not simply just stress from fault systems. I don't believe that one bit. I know a couple professionals out there, professional geologists, seismologists, are claiming that this is nothing more than a sequence of earthquakes. We're talking about probably over 10,000 earthquakes now. This is just in the last few days here, 1,486. But total tally, probably up around 10,000 earthquakes here in the last 2 days. Or 2 weeks, excuse me. If we had 10,000 in the last 2 days, well, that would mean something's imminent here. But either way, I still think something may be imminent in terms of volcanic potential. There's a lot going on underneath this area with migration here going on to the south. But in general, all around this area of interest here. So that these surface fractures going on. Swelling underneath the area, pressurization this would be an obvious sign of magma coming up. So that is that's what I see. I've been studying this stuff for quite a while, and it's something to watch pretty closely there, folks. No one knows exactly what's going to happen. Can't say with certain, with certainty, but to think that this is the just an earthquake swarm due to faults out here. Well, I can tell you, this is by far the most unprecedented earthquake swarm I've ever seen in the history of earthquakes since I've been studying them. I've never seen something like this before. Yellowstone, yeah, when we had back in 2008, we had hundreds and hundreds of earthquakes with uplift and whatnot. It's kind of hard to tell, though. I don't know if these guys have any underwater measurements, but some of the area of the Santorini volcano has been showing uplift here, and also the center cone as well. Not a dramatic increase, but some nonetheless. And to say this is just earthquake activity, folks. It sounds like they're just trying to not cause panic, and I can understand why. But I look at the facts. I'm not fear mongering, but I look at the facts here and state that this is got to be some type of magmatic event unfolding before our eyes out here. Keep an eye on that. That's all we can do right now. Can't say with certainty exactly what's going to happen, but man, that is not just simple fault earthquake activity. All right, so there's that 4.5. Keep an eye there on the southern end of the Cascadia, Northern California. Again, this pattern that I'm seeing is very reminiscent of what happened before the 7-pointer back in December, early December. So we may see something bigger out here. The rest of the country, the earthquake swarm at Yellowstone has died down. About 12 earthquakes or so listed on the USGS map, but there's been way more than that. If we look at the USG or the Yellowstone map here, it took place roughly around the Pitchstone Plateau area. I count way more than 15 earthquakes, probably up around 40, 45 earthquakes or so in that little spitter spatter event. Took place early this morning there at Yellowstone. But since then, as you can see, just a small amount of earthquake activity. Yellowstone is famous for these little spitter spatter events. I like to call it that. Let's see what else we got. Texas oil field still getting hit, rocking and rolling out there in the gold field. Well, liquid gold, so to speak. New Madrid seismic zone, a little small earthquake out there, 1.9. Not a whole lot of large-scale activity out here aside from the movement in Greece, Northern California, rocking and rolling. The largest magnitude here in the last 24 hours, that's going to be this 5.4 from last night. So since then, the 5.1 in Greece around the Santorini volcano takes the chart. Here's one of these out of the normal swarm area earthquakes due to the pressurization underneath the region. Things are still building out here, folks. It is not going away. If you look at the seismograph station here in the last 24 hours, well, it's a mess of earthquakes. It is not dying down. It's been consistent. It's leading to something big. Space weather activity here real quick. Nothing major going on. Do have an active region out way out on the eastern limb here. Let's see what we got. Looks like that's 3991 out here. That popped off an M flare here recently. It looks like there's another area behind that may be active here. I am seeing some bright features out there on the UV filter image of the sun. Some north and some south here, but we'll watch those areas of interest as they come into the Earth-directed view. But right now, as far as the center disk goes, we're pretty quiet. Not really expecting any major flares. In the forecast, there may be some unsettled conditions for the auroras, but really not expecting anything spectacular, folks. Pretty quiet out there for the sun for now. Severe weather tomorrow looks like a slight risk for some severe weather across the south. Decent tornado potential. That could get upgraded overnight. We'll have to watch that, but there's some potential for some wind and mainly tornado threat out there. Big storm coming into California right now. That my eyes it's too bright. Where's the dark theme at? There we go. I don't like the too bright like that. Forecast there across the west. Big storm coming in Northern California. Impressive rainfall rates here across my neck of the woods. And even down into Southern California, going to pick up a hefty-duty amount of rainfall from this major winter storm system. Lots of snow up in the mountains as well. So that goes away. And then it looks like things tend to dry out across the west coast. Cold air dipping back in across the country here. as we head into the middle of next week. Some snow and ice down in towards the south. All right, folks, we'll just keep an eye on things out here. Like I say, I'm leaving up the earthquake watch due to the elevated earthquake activity there across Northern California. I put that earthquake watch up well before this 4.5 coming in. There's just too much. There's too much of a signal out here, so to speak, of elevated activity there across Northern California. Key indicator of the strain against that plate boundary. And got to watch the southern end of the Cascadia. Got tremor activity building up here. Things could get crazy if that thing decides to go. Same for the San Andreas Fault. So, all right, folks, have a good night. I'm out of here. Alaska, what do we got going on up here? Really nothing big for now. A couple smaller quakes, but we'll see what happens overnight. Stay safe out there, folks. We'll catch you guys out here in the morning sometime.